from. Tell your girl she can kick it if she wants some, but we got no time to waste.
Welcome to 4AZ. I'm your host, Tyler McDowell Blanken. In this episode, we'll discuss the transition from teacher to principal, curriculum development, and assessment strategies for the new school year. I'm humbled. I'm excited to introduce you to the East Coast icon turned AZ Compass Prep principal. Dr. Pamela Chandler is here. Dr. Chandler, welcome to the show. How you been?
Thank you. I've been awesome. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being here.
Of
Yeah.
course. I asked how you've been because I don't know that we officially met, but I saw you and your brilliance at a conference earlier this summer. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be in the DMs of Dr. Chandler. We are going to make this happen. And fortunately, you said yes. So thankful you're here and for the conversation we're going to have.
Yes, and I do recall you from the conference. So yes, that was
Oh,
awesome.
thank you.
And yeah, this is. I love the introduction, so I appreciate it. And I'm feeling really good about having this time with you. So
Oh, good.
thank you.
Good. Likewise. Well, thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Chandler, we're going to go way, way back. My first question for you: when did you
Yes.
know you wanted to become a teacher?
It is probably cliche, but I think I've always known I was going to be an educator of some sort. Early on, teacher was what I would always say as a young child. Played school every opportunity I got. I didn't want to be a student. I wanted to be the teacher. And so all my friends were the students. My brother, he didn't want to have anything of it. So he was the principal because he just wanted to kind of, have people sent to his office. So, but I played school. All my teachers would give me all of their material at the end of the school year, all the extra workbooks. And I was just one of those kids who I wanted to teach. And so I've known very early that this was what I was going to be doing.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that your brother said, you know what, I'm going to be in this education role here, but not teacher. I'm going to be principal. I'm going to be calling the
Be
shots. I'm going to be
principal,
telling
yeah.
my sis what to do. I'm going to be evaluating her.
Yes.
Love
That's
that.
what he thought this role was. But yeah, it's not it, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I want to know more about the transition. And I know we're packing many years of your life and your career into just a quick question here. But I'd love for our audience to hear you tell us about the transition from certified teacher to
Mhm,
literacy coach, excuse me, to
mhm.
administrator. How's that transition been over the span of your career?
Sure. Thank you for asking that. I think it was a natural progression. I guess in addition to me always wanting to be an educator, a teacher, um, I've always had leadership in me, and others have recognized that. And so I think in every role that I've had, even as a teacher, I was lead teacher, I was head teacher, whatever the school called it, it was that. And I think it just goes back to just my passion for the field. I just really believe in what I do, and so I think that uh, there was an administrator who saw something in me, like, wow, literacy. My students always did well, and I always had some strategy up my sleeve, and um, it was a natural progression for me to become a literacy coach. I had actually moved from Boston, where I'm originally from, to Atlanta, still teaching, and then I moved back to Boston. And when I moved back to Boston, that was where there was an opportunity for the literacy coach, where people who were familiar with my work was like, hey, our school is struggling. We really need someone who can come in and support us with our literacy. And so that's what I did. And so that's how I became a literacy coach. And then eventually from that, I moved overseas for a while. I was a curriculum specialist. So I was in UAE. I usually say Dubai just because most people are familiar with Dubai, but I was in the United Arab Emirates for 6 years. And there I was a curriculum specialist, literacy coach. It was for IB schools, and so that was a PYP coordinator, which is the primary years program for the IB. And again, within all these roles, there were always things tacked onto it, which led me to, eventually getting moved to an assistant principal role, which that came when I moved to Singapore to be a curriculum specialist. And then our school in Singapore opened a school in Hong Kong. And then I was going to move to that school as a vice principal. But then that's when COVID hit, came back home. And, um, and once I came home, an opportunity opened up in Portland for me to be the principal. So that's where I first was principal at head of elementary at International School Portland. And I did that for a year. And then the opportunity came here for me to come to Arizona, where I was vice principal again. I know it's a long journey. Vice principal for Skyline here, for Skyline Gila River, and now moved into the principal role at AZ Compass Prep. So
Hey, congratulations. So my first takeaway is
yeah.
I clearly need to edit that intro, not East Coast icon, global icon, turned AZ Compass Prep principal. Oh
Well,
my
I
goodness.
appreciate that. I
What a
really
journey.
appreciate that. But it has been a journey.
Yeah.
And in every area that I have worked in education, like I said, to me, on the outside it may seem like different roles, but for me it's all the same. I'm either teaching students, teaching teachers to teach students, and so to me it's the end goal is the same, right? I want to have everyone grow. It does not matter their role, their position. It doesn't matter if they're a student or a teacher. And so I think that has been very evident in everything that I've done. And so even in coaching as an academic coach, it's like I want to give you my all. As a classroom teacher, I want to give you my all so that you can see your own potential and you can grow. And I think that's always been my thrill in educating anyone. I teach you how to whistle. I can teach you how to snap your finger. Whatever it is, I want to teach someone because I just love
Oh,
I love that moment when someone realizes what they can do. And I think oftentimes when we don't know, everything seems like, how can I get there? And that, it doesn't matter, again, child, adult. But once you learn it and you realize, oh, that was it. And I just love that feeling like, I can do that too. And so um, I'm still, that's what drives me. That's still at every level. So yeah.
well, speaking of things you can do, how was your PhD experience?
It was awesome. It was challenging, but it was awesome. I My focus was on English language learners, and again, because even when I started, I'll go back again with my starting my teacher career, working in Boston Public Schools. Most of my students were English language learners, and of course, my journey that took me overseas. I was dealing a lot with English language learners, and I found that most practices that benefit English language learners benefit all students, which that was my push, and that's what I wanted to show and know. But the journey of getting my doctorate, like I said, it was challenging. But I am one of those people who I love school. You know, I actually have to now remind myself sometimes, like, okay, you're done. Like you don't have to go. But every time I hear of a program, I'm like, maybe I'll, maybe I'll. Uh, and so, anyways, I'm done. But I do love school, and so that challenge for me, it was a great challenge. It was something I knew I wanted to accomplish, and again, just so that I could know more, research more, and feel like I could be a thought leader at this level. And I always felt like, if I could work more and research more in any aspect of education, I wanted to do it. And so but it was a pretty good journey, you know.
It
It
sure
was,
sounds like it.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah, but
wow.
again, I love being a student and a teacher.
Right. That's been the thread throughout your life, clearly. That's
Yes.
fantastic. Well, Dr. Chandler, I would imagine that we may have some audience members who are considering whether or not to go into administration. So I'm curious to hear more about sort of your leadership style and how you view the role of a principal, because I find sometimes there is sort of this stigma around an administrator or around a principal, wherein I've been very fortunate. In the best case scenario, a principal is really just another collaborator. Of course, they're your evaluator, but it's another
Yes.
source of learning, of collaboration. And I would imagine your staff feels the same way about you. I would love to know how you got there, where destigmatizing that villainous role that sometimes, unfortunately, administrators, to no fault of their own, kind of just
Yeah.
inherently uh, get placed in that box.
Yes.
What's
Uh, yeah, I thank you for saying that. And I have to say I have this conversation often because I will meet a someone who I see as a great educator who I think would do wonderful in an administration. And a lot of times people will say, "Oh no, I never want to. I would never want to be in that role," right? And if I'm being honest, I may have said that myself, and which is probably why I stayed at the curriculum level of administration for so long, just because I did also see it as I didn't want to. Um, just be the one who dealt with discipline. I didn't want to be the one who was just always managing people. And then it hit me one day, and this is actually the advice I give now is that I get to bring me to the role, and I get to make the role what I need it to be. And so as opposed to me thinking that the role was going to grab me in and, oh, if you become this principal you have to do XYZ, I can actually shape it the way fits my style, my vision, my mission. And going back to what I said before, is my mission is to educate people, and so a big part of what I do is develop teachers. That's my MO. I'm not coming in to get you. I'm not coming in to make you feel some kind of way, which is why I enjoyed those roles as a curriculum specialist, because I was able to support teachers in a very non-threatening way, right? I can watch your lesson and you're going to take my advice because you felt like I wasn't evaluating you. Well, I took those same premises into my role as a vice principal and principal and say, well, I don't have to come in and make you feel like I'm evaluating you that way. I can still coach you and I can still support you while still doing the administrative things that I need to do, but I can show you that I am here to collaborate with you, to support you, to help you grow. And once people start to see that and feel that, then it's you lose that, like, oh, it's not about like it's we I'm here and I can sit down. I want to sit at a table and work with a group of students. I want to, so I'm that type of administrator. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to you know help you figure out that kink in your lesson plan. I want it, so it's not about me evaluating you, it's about me supporting you. And one of my messages that I always say to my staff is that if I were not to give you feedback, you should feel insulted. You should feel like you're not getting what you need. So, sometimes people feel like that. Oh, if you say something to me, I don't. But if I don't say something to you, then I'm doing a disservice to you, and your craft and your growth. And so once people get that, it's like, oh, you want me to grow? Yes, I want you to
you
grow.
care? Yeah,
I care, and
right.
so
Exactly.
and the same with students. I don't like the stigma of coming to the principal's office, and so I really like to build relationships with students so that, and I often encourage teachers to send me students for good reasons. Send them to me, they're working on something, or if they're struggling with coming up with a goal, something that we can work so that they don't see it as the principal's office is a bad place. Yes, if we do have to deal with issues and incidents that come along, but I expect every adult to deal with the incidents and issues that come along in the building. We're kind of the final stop, but there's other things I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of reading in that classroom and hearing about the struggles that students have, or the goal setting, or if someone had something great happen, a kid, it's their birthday, their tooth fell out. I want to hear about those things, and so I think once the students realize, oh, I get to go in your office. And it's so funny sometimes when the students, this their first time in the office and they're like, it's just that, oh, the principal's office.
A
And
scary place for generations. Talk about it.
even teachers. There's times
Yes.
you might call a teacher. I'm like, hey, oh, I got an idea. I'm gonna call this teacher to my office just to run this idea. And there's always this kind of like, what did I do? Like, why am
I'm
I
getting
here?
chills. I'm getting chills just hearing you say that. Dr. Ooh, like something.
And
Ooh,
it's
a little
And
shoulder
I'm like,
shake.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, and so I think helping, and I'm bringing myself to the role and knowing what I want. And what I want students to be successful. I want teachers to be successful, and I want people to feel that they're in a supported environment. And so everything that I do reflects that, which takes away that stigma. Now what people feel internally, still sometimes I can't take all those things away, because at the end of the day, it is right. It is what it is, right? And so, but for the most part, I will say that we've removed that stigma, and people feel comfortable speaking to me, approaching me, and more importantly, collaborating, understanding that we're in this together. That this is, yeah, that's what this is about. And so,
Amen.
yeah, so
How's the transition to Arizona been? So going all the way from Boston to
yes.
other amazing parts of the world, and now not settling, but
Yeah.
taking your talents, back to the desert here. How's that transition personally and professionally?
Yeah, well,
Seamless?
honestly, I will say, just my quick little, the cute anecdote was that when I did hear of this position, and I didn't know much about Arizona, or the Phoenix area. As a matter of fact, I was saying Phoenix for a long time, and then when I got the nitty gritty of where the school was, and I said it was in Chandler. Chandler, wait a minute, and
Hey,
so
hey,
I
that's
felt like
familiar.
that may be where I need to be. And so actually that was kind of one of the things that piqued my interest, like, oh, how cool would that be? And so I will say the transition has been great. I enjoy hot weather. And when I started to research, the worst thing that people said about the place was the heat, which was like, oh, is that the worst thing you can say? Like, okay, and
I could
so
do that.
yeah, I was like, okay. And
Yeah.
so, and remember, I was in the Middle East for 6 years.
You
And so,
were.
the desert life was actually coming from Portland, Oregon. It was actually what I was looking for. The gray skies of Portland did not match my spirit. And so the sunshine, the warm weather, I'll take it. With the heat, I mean, sometimes it feels a bit excessive, but other than that, in terms of the environment, the people, the schools, everything, my experience in Arizona has been very welcoming, very wonderful, easy to transition to, flat grounds, the grid line of the streets, easy to find your way around. And so, me and my family very comfortable here, and I've enjoyed it. I enjoy the people, I enjoy the diversity of it, and it's been good. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. Well, that's a fantastic transition into my next question for you. How have you been able to find a sense of community within the profession? Because obviously, as Black educators in the state, we are 4% of
Mhm.
Arizona classrooms. So, especially given your worldly experience, Dr. Chandler, I mentioned that we met at a conference earlier this summer. Big shout
Yeah.
out to Zell Fowler and the team over at the Arizona Alliance of Black School Educators. How has
Yeah.
that been across the span of your career? Because the demographics in Boston to Dubai to Chandler, very different.
Atlanta.
Have you been able to find that sense of community, or is it still something that you're in search of?
I am. I'm still working on it, but constantly building, like with this, and that's why I am a member, of the Alliance for Black Educators, and why I wanted to do that conference and be a part of that to help me to start to build my network. But I have community here within my school. There's some great educators, and just continuing to build. So as you said, there's not many in this area in terms of just kind of having that same lived experience, and having that same, but networking and just constantly making sure that I'm contributing, putting myself out there, given any opportunity that comes up for me to meet new educators. We're charter schools, so going to the charter conferences and just making sure that I'm connecting with people is just what I do. But I mean, I'm 3 years in Arizona, and so still building that, because it's a lot of work to do what we do. So socializing is not a lot of socializing happening. And so, when the opportunity comes, usually I'm socializing with fellow educators, and so that's just how building it from that way.
Mhm.
But definitely, even a reason why I wanted to do this and be a part of this is because, again, this is helping to build that community and get to know what Arizona has to offer. Yeah.
Well
So
said.
yes.
Excellent. Well, I would love to discuss some of your other passions. Now, I know at the conference you were leading a workshop on assessment, and in the outline for our podcast episode, I put Tyler shares a personal anecdote here. So I'm going to make
Okay.
this quick. I remember during my early years of teaching, Dr. Chandler, I
Mhm.
really neglected the value of assessment. I was spending a lot of time, you remember how this goes. I was spending a lot of time just figuring everything out, figuring lesson planning and classroom management and all the things. But I neglected to realize the value of assessment in terms of, I mean, that really is the foundation of what we do. Okay, we put things together, but how did it hit with students? And if it
Yep.
hit, great, I need to replicate that. If it didn't, I need to pivot and make some strategic changes. So, my
Exactly.
question for you is, how do you view the value of assessment within learning? And of course, any tips from the great Dr. Chandler are absolutely welcome here.
Yes, thank you. And I always love to hear our teacher stories of those beginnings, those figuring it out moments. And so for me, I will say that what I see assessment as a tool for connection. I see it for connection and not just correction, which I think sometimes that's where we get it wrong, right? We want to, at the end of that week, and we given that test, and in true form, assessment is a part of everything that we do, right? If I was to show you something right now, in order for me to know if you got it, I have to let you do it, and I have to assess what you're doing, right? And so understanding that assessment is for us to figure out what students know, how they learn, what do they need next, and that's how we should be looking at assessment. And it's ongoing. Now, we know there's different types of assessment. We do have some, very formal assessments and very informal. And if we separate the two, we know that we're always assessing. And I think that that's where you want people to understand. If I do that, there's three types of assessment for learning, right? And we have assessment of learning and assessment as learning. And so when we're talking about for learning, that's your formatives, that's guiding you. These are the assessments that's going to help you check in with students, right? And then you have your assessments of learning. I want to assess what you have learned. That's what we're used to, right? That's that end of unit. That's that, I want to know if you got, what I put down, right?
Right. And
And then you
if
have,
you didn't, I need to course
yeah,
correct and reach you.
exactly. Exactly. And then your assessments as learning is where you're having students take more control of. And that's where the students, they're self-assessing, they're reflecting, that the assessment is that's them as they're learning. And so if we build that in everything that we're doing, we're constantly, it should be all the time. Every lesson that you have, there should be some checking for understanding. There should be some, again, I feel really bad for the team. You work so hard on building these lesson plans, and you got this whole week plan, and you get to the end of the week and you realize no one got anything, right? And then you feel bummed out, the kids feel bummed out. But in all actuality, you should know on Monday what parts they got, and then on Tuesday, what parts, and if you have to redo it. And if we're constantly assessing, and not confusing it with, am I building all these tests, am I doing all these projects? No, you're checking in. You have to check in and check for that understanding, and that helps us. There's a quick PD that I usually do with my teachers, and basically I have them all come in, and I have them pick anything that they can teach in 3 minutes. That's the rule. Pick anything, and it's and we make it fun. So you might have a something you've learned in karate, and somebody might have a dance move they can teach, and in this instance, one of the coaches was going to show me how to do a dribble the basketball between my legs. We were not very successful, but we tried.
This is on video. Can we find this on
Good,
YouTube?
right? Yeah, so everybody had something.
Okay.
And in that 3-minute period, I say, now teach the person. And what they find is that when you teach, the natural cycle of teaching. So if you were going to show me a dance move, or if you were going to teach me anything, the natural cycle is you're going to show me, you're going to give me an opportunity to do it, try it, and then you're going to tell me what I did wrong or right. And you're going to do it again. No, you didn't do it. No, you have to hold your fingers this way. No, you got that part right, but you need to do this part, and that is the natural cycle of learning. And that is assessment, right? You're going to assess as I go, and you're going to give me feedback. Not good job, right? Not great.
That was me. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But you're going to say, wow, you got the first 3 steps. Now let me show you again how to do the 4th step.
Right.
You did that. And you could say you did wonderful on the first 2 steps. You could say good job on it, but I have to give you some valuable feedback so that you can go. And that's what that cycle of assessment should be. And I know you had mentioned about the at the conference, I spoke about like the biases in assessment.
Yes.
And that's another thing, is that you want to make sure as the educator, going in what you are looking for, what you are assessing, and therefore you can check for those biases, check to see if I really only need to know if a student can do, XYZ, why am I paying attention to ABC? Like, why am I saying, oh, I told you have to wear this when you give that speech, or you have to, we had talked about eye contact and all these different things that could be just culturally something different, something, a bias that you think is, talking about, hey, let's all write about, your holidays. Maybe I don't celebrate holidays at all, right? And so, just thinking about what are we assessing, why are we assessing, and is it the same for everyone, right? If the assessment said write a poem, and I wrote a poem, but then another student wrote a poem, but they put it on pretty paper, are you giving them more credit? And now you're looking at were you assessing the paper, or were you assessing the writing? And so just really focusing on what are we assessing, going back to, if you're standards based or whatever, what am I assessing, and how can I help the students get there, and how can I be flexible with that? And that's where that bias and stuff, things come in, is because I can be flexible. If the standard says I need you to do this, I can be flexible. You can do it one way, you can do it another way, if I know we're going to meet in the end at the same. I can look at my standards and say, hey, did you meet it? Did Tyler meet, the goal? Yes, he was able to do that by writing the song. Did, Pamela meet the goal? She was able to do it,
And Pamela had it on pretty paper. Tyler did not. Luckily, both
exactly. But were we assessing the paper? And
right.
those are things that I think, especially for newer teachers who are just trying to figure it out, making sure that you're just checking in and understanding what you are assessing. If it's writing piece, sometimes a student will get marked down from the handwriting, and that wasn't even a part of the rubric, right? But it was so messy that you feel like you should mark them down for it. And it's like, what were you truly assessing, and just really thinking about that. And so, that's what I would say in terms of assessment.
Do you think that all of these advancements in technology have made assessment better? Or do you think it's made it more complicated? Because we have so many apps and Google Forms and everything at our fingertips, Dr. Chandler. Do you think that's sort of, advanced the
Yes.
assessment opportunities, or is it made it a bit more complex?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can, depending on how you look at it. I think if everybody just gets very just say relax with it and just say, okay, the teachers are, and I'll just use say AI for example. Um, if you say the teachers are using AI, the students are using AI, and they're just going back and forth, and everybody's just like, just taking that relaxed, you know, route to it. I do think that it can become very it's dangerous because we're not assessing. You have, you're checking everything through AI. The kids are submitting everything through AI. So there's not much that's going to be wrong with it unless they gave it an incorrect prompt, right? And
Exactly.
so in those regards, yes, I think that we're in trouble. However, I do think that because we have such great technology available to us, if we use it correctly, and as educators, if we use it correctly, I think that it can just open up a wonderful world for our students. And we just have to challenge we have to challenge what we've always done. And what I mean by that is that if the only way you've ever been able to have a student assess a student was to have them write something, and you know that they're now all using AI to write it, what can you do to challenge them? Well, maybe have them use AI to write it, and then in person, now they have to question what's there or add to it, or maybe they have to have conversations about it, or maybe they have to write the prompts that they would use. Maybe you would give them a situation and say, well, hey, here is an essay. What would be some prompts I would get? I mean, I don't know. I just think we have to challenge it, the system, and we can't keep it the way it's been, because we know that you don't you could use an app to get any answer, from the calculators, from there's different math apps, there's different writing apps. And so how can we start to challenge our students to do things differently? And actually, my other love is about teaching students with 21st century skills. And so I think about that problem solving, that engineering. And so I think if we start to get them to think outside the box of saying, yeah, we know you have AI, give them that. You had, so here's a problem, give us a solution. Because I hope people also know that just using AI or not, if you just say, write me an essay, about flowers, it's going to be very generic. But if I really was breaking it down and giving it a prompt that was very specific, I mean, that's a pretty good skill. That's a very good, if I said, no, 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 I need the prompt to say this, I need to, if you feed it correctly, that means you have another skill set. But if all you can do is say, hey, write me a paper, that means you can't check it. You don't have the skills to check if the information is valid. That means you really don't know the direction you were going in it. That means, so really just really looking at the skills that we have. So I do think that there's so many advances in technology that could help us and support us. I am an advocate for both, using technology and, reminding even, my teachers that to not lose the, writing and using our pen and paper, because there should be a balance. There should be a balance. But there are so many things, and hopefully people are starting to use those tools, with tutoring. You can, Khan Academy has also, I'm going to plug anybody, but Khan Academy has great,
Go for it.
AI tutoring, and there's,
Mhm.
there's a bunch out there, but these things could actually help us, and they have things built in that say, I can't give you the answer, but I can walk you through it, and that's pretty cool too, and so maybe, helping students know how they can use these to leverage what they need, you know maybe you can't have someone take someone to a tutoring session every day afternoon, but you can use that technology to really say, hey, take your time, you can use this as long as you want, ask the right questions, and you have AI tutoring available, which is, it's pretty, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to try any of it, so you should, if that, with that
I've
English teaching.
I was gonna say yes, yes. I've dabbled a little bit. It's just to me, it's so jarring the advancements in such a
Yes.
relatively short amount of time.
Yes.
As you said, I think there's a lot of opportunity to just think through and collaborate on how do we view it as an enhancement for our
Yeah.
practice and for student outcomes, because frankly, we have no choice. It's
Yeah.
already here. Students know about it. They may even know more than us. So
Exactly.
how do we use this
Yes.
dutifully in that way?
And start to have more conversations in the classroom, start to have more opportunities where if that's one of my fears, that the students are, oh, everybody's using all the technology and I don't know what's an authentic thought, then let's sit around the table, let's talk, and go back to what, because you still have to be able to have those conversations. And if phones are away and computers are away and I ask you to share your thoughts, then now I'm getting to see where you are, what your actual level is. But if all I'm doing is giving you assignments, in a Google Classroom, I don't really interact and I'm not giving you that opportunity to express your thoughts, to ask questions, to problem solve without the computer, then of course. And why wouldn't you? I mean, I remember years and years and years ago when spell check first became a thing. Um, and I remember people thinking that was like the big advancement, right? So
Game changer.
you don't have any misspellings now. You use, Microsoft Word and there's no misspellings because it's underlined in red.
Yeah, let you
And
know.
but it was a support, right?
Right.
Thank you for telling me I misspelled that word. But it still had its limitations, because if I spelled the word correctly but I used it incorrectly, it didn't tell me that, and I feel like that's the same now. We have an opportunity to show students. I support showing students how to properly use the information so it can help them, so it can, maybe, help you start a business, use it for something, show them how to use it, as opposed to everybody being afraid, they're getting the right answers, but then maybe we should be asking different questions, and so
Mm,
that's my take on with technology.
mm.
I encourage
Bef-
it, but show them how to use it.
I love that. Before we get to our exit ticket, you mentioned 21st century skills and that being a priority for the staff at Compass. I'm
Mhm.
curious, in this fascinating time we're living in where, this question remains, what are going to be the jobs for our kids in 5, 10 plus years? What does Dr. Chandler view as being the most pivotal skills that students need to learn in this ever changing world?
Believe it or not, some of the things I believe is like it's something simple as resiliency, right? I mean, I think having the skill to be able to bounce back and um, and self management, and I'm thinking about just being able to manage yourself, because no matter what. We don't even know what's down the line, but if you're able to bounce back, if you're able to pivot if necessary. You got let down, maybe a job you thought you were going to have. Maybe you started college and you were majoring in XYZ, but now they've taken that major away. How do I've just noticed that in recent years, students are unable to deal with like rejection, right? Unable to deal. It's just like everything is so big because we're desocializing everybody, with the technology we just spoke about. um, Everybody's loners. Everybody want to be by themselves on the computer playing video games, and so now we're at a place where if something happens, people are not able to just figure out, how do I come out of this, how do I bounce back, because everything else is just changing. You need to be able to have it, like, so my number one is resilience, but what being a thinker, being able to and I mean research on your own, really be able to look things up and figure it out on your own. Everything is so at our fingertips, and we don't question because it's just there, and so we just take it as face value. But those are kind of skills that I think that students really need to hone in on, and being able to work with others, being being able to be, have good work ethics. And so all that kind of builds into that of why do I need to be, on time? Why do I need to communicate with you what's going on, or follow up with you? And those skills, it does not matter what field or industry you're in, you'll be able to, be a pretty decent, person, be able to figure it out. It's funny you mentioned about the jobs that will be available. I just read somewhere recently is that, I mean, electricians and plumbers look like the only ones who are going to have
Hey,
jobs.
shout
Shout-
out to
that's it.
them.
I mean,
It's changing.
that is, they say that's it, because those AI can't do that. It can't come in
Mhm.
and change the piping and the
Mhm.
electricity. Yeah, I mean, which is, you think about it, is that most other things can be done. They're building systems, even in the medical field, they're building systems that can do all of these things. And so when you think about it, this is why, and then that technology skills obviously is where I think students need to be. But I think instead of us letting them grow into the technology on their own, that is some skills that we need to let them have so that they are prepared to deal with all the things that come,
Mhm.
And so I think that, yeah, we have a lot of work to do, but it's, it's good work. It's the good
Yes.
work.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Chandler, like any good lesson, we always end our conversations with an exit ticket. I have two very important questions that I've been waiting to ask you.
Okay.
Let's start with the first one. What
Yes.
is the most embarrassing or surprising song on your playlist?
Ooh. Oh, wait. I mean,
Hey, that's
oh,
why
what
I told you we gotta,
that is. That
I
is a
make
good
you
one.
think here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is. I want to be a second. So the most embarrassing
Or surprising.
or surprising?
People would say, "Oh, Dr. Chandler listens to this song or this artist every morning." Okay.
Um. Oh my goodness, you really put me
I
out
got
there.
you. You ready
You,
for that new Justin Bieber album? This is
you.
true. Is that where we're
No, we are. It's so, look, Tyler. It's on a whole nother direction. I'm
Yeah,
trying to see what
what
would
do you
be.
listen to?
I listen to a little bit of everything,
Okay.
but R&B is
Nice.
mostly what you'll find.
Okay.
But the surprising ones are, there are some rap songs that I listen to, like, that, will get me going. And the one that I think is most surprising. I don't even know if I can. I'm just gonna say that
This is
I'll
great.
just say some rap songs.
Okay.
I'll say my
What
my favorite rap song. My favorite rap song of all time is
yeah.
MC Light, Cha Cha Cha. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, shout out MC Light. That's a
Shout out to
great call.
that.
Callback.
That's my favorite.
She
That's
doesn't
my
get her
favorite.
flowers enough. I love
No,
that.
she does not. So that is
Great.
my absolute favorite, and I
Now,
listen to it often.
hey, there we go. That
Don't
was
make me.
wonderful.
Don't
Okay,
make me. Look, don't make.
I thought about it, but the way that you handled that and actually gave us an
Yeah.
answer instead of pivoting
Yes.
is something I greatly respect. So
Yes.
maybe when we have you back, we'll ask for a rendition
Yes. Yes.
if the
Thank you. I
copyright is
appreciate
allowed.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe we'll reach out to MC Light production team if you could get on that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Dr. Chandler,
Yes.
final question.
Yes.
Let's imagine that you are writing an autobiography. What
Mhm.
would this chapter of your life be titled?
This chapter is smooth sailing. Right now, this chapter of my life is smooth sailing. I'm at a place where I'm not going to say I figured it out, but I'm at that place where I can look back on my life and realize some of the things that I thought were important were not important, and the things that are important, I'm able to now balance that out. And I've discovered balance. I've discovered how to take care of me in the midst of all the craziness. And so I would say this chapter is smooth sailing. There were some other chapters in there that would not have gotten that title, but this chapter would be smooth sailing.
Well, I will be
Yes.
pre-ordering this book on
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble. So once it's available, you drop that link, you let us know, and we will check out the smooth sailing chapter. Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Chandler, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for joining us. How can we connect with you and support all of your great work at Compass?
Currently, I'm just on LinkedIn. I will tell you that I've been being pushed to get out there on social media. So as soon as I set myself up right, I will pass that on. Again, I've been kind of late to the party with the social media, but I'm on LinkedIn. If anybody's looking for me, and I am here at AZ Compass. Look us up and you can find me. But there are some things on their way, and so that's why I really do need to get myself out there so that uh, I can build that network. Okay,
Fantastic. We will be eagerly awaiting that moment. Well,
thank you.
please, everyone, let us know what connected with you most from our conversation with Dr. Chandler. Leave us a comment here on YouTube or on social. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and the aforementioned LinkedIn at 4AZTeach, as well as 4azteach.org. You know we love our audio listeners. Please be sure to leave us a 5-star review on your preferred audio platform. It goes a long way. Thank you all again for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.